Hello, welcome to episode 1 of the Sustainable Creative Show. My name is Dom Italiano and today is my 41st birthday. I figured I would release the show on my birthday because at least if we go for a year, I will remember the anniversary. So far today, I've had a lovely morning with some loved ones and I'm about to go out to my parents' farm to help my dad dig some water trenches so his sheep can be sustained with water over the summer. Our guest for episode 1 is Dr. Laura Walsh, who is Principal Osteopath of Quay Osteo in Torquay, Victoria. We had a wonderful conversation that spans all kinds of things creative and sustainable, including how our pets look after us, taking time out to take care of yourself, letting people take care of you, creative outlets away from music, finding the art in the science of osteopathy and music, pre-decisions, holding trauma in your body, all that kind of stuff. Basically, Laura gave me a treatment while we had a wonderful conversation and I found it really, really rewarding. So I hope you enjoyed it as well. Do all the podcasty things that people do, like subscribe and like and share and stuff if you want to. I'd really appreciate it. And until next week, here's episode 1.
How you doing?
I'm great.
Good.
Thanks for inviting me to your house.
That's okay. Thanks
This is
for coming.
kind of funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the first conversation I'm having with anyone about kind of my idea about a sustainable creative.
I like that you're putting sustainable in it.
Well, I think that's the hardest thing about being anyone who's mindful of any kind of thing that they do that's good for them is keeping it sustainable, because you can kind of do something for a little while, whether it's, I'm eating healthy, like even the idea I'm on a diet, which means it's going to end.
Yep.
You know, like I'm going to do something for a while and then it's instead of, I eat healthily, which is something that's sustainable. But if I'm on a diet, it's something you're going to do for a while and then you...
Well, and there's the effort factor of anything like that. Yeah.
And given that you are a health practitioner,
Yes.
amongst other things, I thought you'd be a really good person to talk to and get your perspective on sustainable practice in life.
Yeah.
Not just as your idea as a health practitioner, but also like you're also a human being and you know what is good for you.
Yeah.
Yet life is not.
Life sometimes gets in the way of the knowing what's good for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so I should introduce you. Are you Dr. Laura Walsh?
Yes,
You are?
technically.
Okay.
Yeah. Was
'Cause
it the title or the surname that threw
That
you
was the
then?
surname. I know you're a doctor. I know that. I know what that is. And you're a doctor of osteopathy.
Yes.
Yes. But you got married once.
I did get
And
married.
stayed-
Just
and stayed
once.
married.
I did. Got
And
married,
so-
stayed married.
You're Dr. Laura Walsh.
Yeah.
And you are Principal Osteopath of Quay Osteo.
Correct.
Oh, I'm good at this.
I know.
Excellent.
What town are we in?
We're in Torquay. Torquay, not in the UK.
No, too cold though.
Well,
It's,
it is winter here. It's
always
pretty
here.
cold.
Yeah.
But a seaside town in Victoria. And you have been here for...
Nearly 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have a little practice with how many people work with you?
Oh, there are 4 osteopaths and a kinesiologist, psychologist, naturopath, intuitive medical practitioner, and an amazing Ginny who
She's
keeps
a good
the
lady.
show on the road. Yeah. So it's busy. It's small and busy
Good.
all at the same time.
I like kinesiology.
Yeah, magic.
Does stuff to me.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, who's that?
That is Abby, who is a 10-week-old Labrador puppy who does not have manners yet.
Can I ask you, before we talk about some other stuff, because I have a black dog, but I have a real life one that I have to take for walks.
Yes,
and
you have a
stuff.
black dog and a black dog.
I do. What's your feeling about, just could be the personal, not necessarily professional feeling about having things like animals to look after and actually how much they look after you?
Oh, God. Where to start? And I can't imagine life without animals. And, you know, we've got 2 animals, so we've got a cat as well. So I have a black cat and a black dog.
Yes.
And as you know, the cat's not particularly social
friendly
or cooperative, or she's a cat.
Yeah.
So pat, pat, swipe in any random order. And even, like, I can't imagine life without her. But having lost a dog earlier this year, a lot of people haven't understood that the grief has been quite similar. Like, it's like losing a family member.
Of course,
so having a new baby in the house, it's annoying getting barked at 3 a.m. and I'm kind of sick of wiping up wheeze and poos, but it's just, life's so much better with an animal in the house. And the caring for you factor, so I treat my dog and my cat, they're like guardians.
Yeah, okay.
They're like, you know, we think that they're ours, but they're totally here and with us and for us. And watching a dog go through cancer who just wouldn't put out the fact that she was suffering. It was so internalised because she was just so present for us.
Yeah,
so
okay.
they're such a gift.
Yeah, that's good.
And the unconditionalness of animals.
Or the immediacy of their condition, or just like done. Like it's like they're kind of like, oh, I need this thing from you, and then they get it, and then it's move on to the next thing, or like, oh, I don't need anything for a while now. But it's not.
There's no lingering resentment.
Yes, I was just gonna say it's like it's unspoken because obviously they don't speak. I mean, some they're vocal at times, but they don't speak. But I find so often with humans, there's all of this conversation that happens between people that isn't actually happening. It's like, oh, you know, when you can see someone maybe you're close to and you go, you're talking to me right now, but you're not telling me what you're saying, so I don't know what's going on.
Well, so there's the two sides to that. There's somebody's in front of you who's talking but not telling you anything.
Okay.
And then there's the person who springs into your mind who you haven't seen for 3 days, 3 months, 6 months, whatever. And you're like, I feel like I need to call them and reach out and you do or you don't. But if you do, something's gone down and they did need that contact. Yeah. And if you don't, I find that they reach out to you and you're like, I was just thinking about you. So there's so many layers of communication that we don't understand.
Yeah, we're pretty...
And I think dogs get it.
Do you think... I love that this is already tangential.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's going to be anyway.
That could be the name of your podcast.
Tangential. God, it could be the name of my mental condition. Newly diagnosed mental condition. Only one person on the planet has been diagnosed.
I had a lecturer that had it too.
Tangentialism.
Yeah.
That's the science of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's when you get it down to a fine art. You're practicing in tangentialism. See, I'm already going on. So I feel like people, it's one of those kind of theories that you have about, you know, being a human being and you go, this is possible. It's not impossible, so it's possible. And one of the things I think we have this kind of genetic memory of how humans have interacted over thousands of generations.
Yep.
And so only recently have we ventured away from the idea of living in small communities far away from other communities. And so this idea, as you were just saying, people who you're close to and you emotionally connected with or historically connected with, nowadays they can be very, very far away from you. So, you know, you've got family that live hundreds of kilometres away. You know, my best friend lives 120 kilometres away from me. I'm
envious. Mine's on the other side of the country.
Well, of course, yeah. And in my phone, you know, at any point in time, my mum's 30 to 100 kilometres away from me. But that thing happens where you go, I'm going to call mum. And she go, I'm holding the phone to call you.
Yep.
Yeah. And you go, all right. So this kind of, which also makes sense in the idea of, well, you have a limited realm of people that you're close to, and so you're probably thinking about them often, and there's a good chance that that's circumstantially you're both thinking about each other at the same time.
Yeah.
Maybe after dinner, when you're like, I usually call mum after dinner. Tom usually calls me after dinner. Maybe that's what's happening.
Yeah.
But maybe that's this kind of human behaviour thing where in millennia gone by, you're just around the people you're close to, and it actually doesn't really matter if they're 100 kilometres away. But now we are 100 kilometres away, but we're still connected because it's this thing that we do with people. I kind of feel like it sounds a bit wacky because if you were to tell someone who works, in an office tower in the city, this is potentially how we
believe in cosmic connection.
Yeah, and they're like, man, I work in a building. There's 10,000 people working in my building, as if that happens. It's like, but you don't have a history with those people, so it doesn't necessarily mean that you'd be connected to them. But
I don't know what's been measured scientifically, but when you break it down to the fact that we're trillions of cells and atoms, and that everything's vibrational, like from a quantum physics perspective, I'm not solid.
You're not solid. You're moving all the time.
Which my brain doesn't fully compute.
Yeah.
I know that it's true and that they've measured it, but it's too big a concept for me to wrap my head around fully. But when you talk about that energetic vibration, it makes sense that we're in contact constantly with everything on the planet, which is a stretch for how some people think. But I think that kind of sense of the bigger picture is something that people that have been through trauma often, or suffering, have kind of developed a broader...
Yeah, cool.
Is it what's my life about, or why am I here? Like those big existential stuff kind of turns you into a what's around me, what have I got control over, and also how tiny a little ant am I,
and perhaps
in the grand scheme of things.
And perhaps one of the reasons I went through the trauma is because of a disconnection somehow.
Yeah.
So, or like a disconnection to the idea of being connected. Yeah. So you're just kind of living your life, and then life hits you in the face. And maybe a lot of that is, someone else went through some trauma, but that's had an impact on me. And you go, so we are connected, because a lot of people's trauma is based in, someone else's sickness or something like that. So you go, I'm okay, but that happened to them, and so on. Now I'm not okay.
Yeah. And I think there's a connection between people who have been through similar types of trauma as well.
And previous conversation you and I had when we were talking about doing this, I like that we were talking about the same thing, but we had different phrases. And I said, I feel like you need to have a crisis to rebuild.
And I called it a pain point.
You went really small with it. Like I called it a pain point. I'm like, because even a pain point is a mini crisis.
Yeah.
In a way. And then sometimes what I was suggesting, like the idea of a crisis is like a lot of pain points. But you actually probably only need one.
Yeah.
To kick you into gear.
And I think that I really do think that you should call your podcast tangential, because we've looped right around. But for me, with pain points, like that's what I do as an osteopath.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm dealing with people who have a point of pain, who come to me and say, fix this, please.
That's the spot.
That's the spot, just a little elbow in that bit. And so I'm really familiar with what the physicality of pain looks like for people, because I've been doing it for so long. And I grew up with a father who had chronic pain, which only in hindsight do you look back and go, oh, no wonder I'm an osteopath. Like those dots line up perfectly. Yeah, okay. But the longer I'm doing what I'm doing, and I guess the more life I live as well, the more you see those pain points that show up in your emotional world or your mental health or your, there's just the everyday small struggles of, I really felt like a cuppa and we're out of milk, through to, loss of a parent or grief or loss of work. And so they're all pain points of a description. And any one of those tiny things can be that change of, I need to shift the direction of my life. And I know that the cup of tea seems really strange, but I've ditched dairy recently. Yeah. And part of that was I've just got to let it go, and it doesn't need to be in the fridge. Bit of a mismatch in my marriage on how we feel about the milk not being in the fridge. But there are those moments that you just go, that's my line in the sand with that pain point, and now something else has to evolve out of that.
Let me ask you a question around about that kind of negotiation with someone that you're sharing a space with.
Uh-oh.
No, it's okay. It won't be bad. So I find like quite often in any relationship, whether a marriage, or not that I've had one, but
elope.
Yeah, I'm considering it. It'll be cheaper. But the idea of like you're often kind of let's imagine. All right, here we go.
Okay.
Let's imagine.
Yeah.
In any relationship, there's two people, but they are a leg in the same body.
Yep.
Right. So what I find is all my friendships, and whether it's even my parents, something like if I'm taking the step forward, then they are the other leg that's supporting me while I'm moving, and then I stand, and then they come with me.
Oh.
Right. So like the relationship is this body that's supported by two legs. That's always doing this because you're never really standing still. You can't stand still in your relationship.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, but the problem
is,
yeah.
Well done.
Thanks. You can't really stand still.
No.
Like in a relationship, like it doesn't. Like you can physically stand still as a human, but a relationship is always moving, right? So you're very rarely like in the same spot and solid. So something like I'm going to ditch milk. And the other person going, well, I'm not doing that yet. And maybe what happens is like, oh, now we're doing the splits. So how is the rest of my body, how's this relation, and how does that reverberate through the rest of the body?
If this continues, I'm going to need to see the osteopath because I'm going to have a groin strain.
Luckily, there are a whole bunch of other things that relationships do, which continue to do that. So at least maybe, they might be doing a bit of a stretch with the milk thing, but other things are going along quite well. So you can, in the scheme of the relationship, it's all kind of moving. But there's this one pain point, right? What's happening? So my friend Matt and I do a podcast together, and the last one we did, we came from a funeral and we were sitting in the car having a chat. So it was kind of like a bit of a reflective thing. And I was talking about, health and food, as I often do with him. And he said this, I'll never forget the sentence. You do have a touch of the reformed smoker about you, which is very true. Although I'm not a reformed smoker, but I'm a reformed terrible eater and alcoholic, I guess you'd say I was. And I find even that idea like, so yours is a milk thing at the moment, and potentially other things as well. But I'm like, well, I'll be at a gig because anyone who's not watching this, anyone who's watching this doesn't know I'm a musician. 4 or 5 nights a week.
A very good musician.
Oh, well, you love it. Like I don't drink at gigs.
Yeah.
And it's mind-blowing for people. Like, what do you mean you don't drink? I was like, well, I didn't say I don't drink at all. I just don't drink at gigs. Like when I'm at work, I feel like most people can't drink when they're at work, but also I kind of do a better job when I don't drink. I've noticed that.
Yeah.
But they still cannot get their head around it. So in that moment, I'm having this splits with whoever I'm talking to.
Yeah.
Whether it's someone behind the bar or even just like a punter. It's like, particularly if they're drinking, it's a massive challenge for them to understand why don't you do what I do. And then I find that thing pops up with other stuff in my life where, I don't do this or I do this and they don't.
It's quite confrontational for people when you're making a choice, particularly if there's an innate part of you that knows that choice would serve you as well. So alcohol's an obvious one. But I've seen you since you became a reformed smoker.
Yes.
And it's incredible. Like your transformation.
It's a different person.
It's a different person.
Yeah.
And you just...
It's a different person.
And you totally just chose it. You hit a pain point and went, I'm shifting into this.
Well, mine with drinking was literally a pain point. I had a sip of beer in a pool in Bali after maybe having a bucket of other previous beers and went, I'm sick. I went to bed. Like I was like, I've got the flu. And I didn't have the flu, but it was like I had a reaction. My body went, you're sick, man. Stop it.
But it wasn't like it was processed sugar. It was gluten. It's like, you've just totally, So for knowing what you should do and, what we probably all should do at some point, you just hit that point where you flicked a switch and it all shifted.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
and it's impacted your life in if I said every facet, would that be a stretch?
Probably wouldn't even come close. You know, when I say every, I was like, well, it's impacted in ways I don't understand.
Yeah.
Back to the relationship thing, the standing tall thing. I do notice how it impacts my relationship with people who I was closer to at one point in time, and they have continued on the path that I have left.
Yep.
And I don't feel like I butt heads with people. I think I'm okay with people living the way they live, and which is different to me. And I'm also okay saying, this is my perspective. Other people, like for instance, Matt pointed out, you do have a touch of the reform smoker about you, and they're like, well, I don't want to be around that. There's something about them who goes, well, your new way of living shits me. Or you're not actually a problem, but it reminds me of stuff about my life that I'm not ready to change, and so I don't want to be around you yet.
Whereas I'm the opposite. Like, I find having a meal with you really refreshing because you'll still have a coffee with me, but you order the way that I know that I should or could off the menu. And I'm the health professional. Yeah. So it's literally just that, and it's not hard work. You've got some great information behind it, but it is just that, no, I made a decision. Yeah. I heard somebody describe that it's the decisions that we make in our life are what create the quality of the life that we have. Yeah. And the part behind that is that we need to be asking great questions to get great answers to get to great decisions. But if you make a decision where you've actually pre-decided, so you know that when you go to the bar or to a gig that you're not having a beer, so when somebody says, hey, want a beer, you don't even have to think about it because you've already decided that that's not your thing. And the same
decision.
So it's a pre-decided. Yeah. So if somebody chooses that they're going to be fanatically healthy, you know, they're doing lean meat or only fish, protein and salads, you go to the menu and, you know, there's confit duck and roast lamb and all the sauces on it, and they're saying to the waiter, do you do salad and is there steamed fish? I'll have that, thanks. Yeah. It's that pre-deciding on the outcome that you want, which is health, which for me, and this comes back to I've ditched dairy, I'm really working on getting rid of gluten, but I just want better energy. Yeah. Like I've hit that pain point of I'm busy, I'm tired, I haven't got the oomph at the moment to do the things that I need to do, let alone that I want to do. It's like, you know, coming back to the creativity stuff. And so something's got to change. And what you put into your mouth is a really easy starting point, a simple starting point, not necessarily an easy starting point. So
it's I heard a description of IQ, and I've translated it into other things as well. So the idea that if you're, if you've got an IQ of 100, then you're better than, you're in the 80th percentile, but that only means you're 1 in 20, right? And if you have like an IQ of 110, then you're 90th percentile, so you're 1 in 100. And if you have an IQ of like 130, then you're 99th percentile, so you're 1 in 1,000, right? But then in order to be a little like far more significant, every percentage point means that you're like, oh, that means you're 1 in 100,000, that means you're 1 in a million, that means you're 1 in 10 million, that means you're 1 in a billion. But in order to get to 1 in a billion, you like have to have an IQ of 300.
I find it, like you say that, and there's two sides to that for me. So there's one bit where you're like, I'm really unique, and the other bit sounds really lonely.
Yes.
Like the bigger the 1 in 1,000. Like, I want to be a 1 in 2 because let's hang out.
Well, 100%. But this is what's really interesting about it. So then you start going, things like health-wise or what you put in your body. You go, I don't want to eat this, and this because I want to make some good choices. Yeah. And then you, after a long enough time, you go, well, I haven't eaten. Like say for me, like I very rarely eat anything that's grainy, or legumey, I guess. So. And now I've been doing that for a while. When I do eat something, I go, oh, far out. Like something in there, I don't know what it is, whether it's the gluten or this strain of this or that. I don't know what it is, but it's actually just much better for me just not to eat any of that stuff at all. Because when I do...
Food coma.
Yeah, it's really full on. I do get the remarkable pleasure of eating pizza, but then for 2 to 3 days afterwards, I'm like, I don't know what that does to me, but it's no good.
Yeah.
Then what happens is you end up kind of getting to a point where you're clean enough that all manner of shit starts affecting you. So you become one of these 99th percentile people, which you can't eat anything because you're so sensitive to how, like, the subtle changes of stuff. And it's not so much that that's a bad thing, but it's like, oh, you become like vibrationally supple, yeah,
and self-aware.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I wonder whether the sensitivities are always there to a degree, and maybe they are and maybe they're not. And I'm sure that it comes down to individuals' constitution, but it's the same thing for when you're in peak physical form, which is what I see
I've
with.
never known. Yeah.
But what I see with some athletes, you know, they can have a minor tweak that on anyone else's body nobody would notice. But because they're so in tune with themselves, they notice those smaller anomalies. And it'll be the same thing as a musician listening to music. Your experience of the radio or going to a gig is completely different to my experience.
Like, I can hear a song on the radio and hear 30 other songs that sound exactly the same, and most people don't know that.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, oh, that's a completely different song. And I can hear that's that song, that's that melody from that, that's that line from that. Yeah.
Whereas I just get to sit and, you know, enjoy and kind of soak it in. So there'd be amazing aspects of listening to it with your trained ear. But sometimes do you just want to be able to sit back and just... You can't know both ways, can you?
No.
You're either trained or you're not.
Well, you can know both ways, but you can't know both ways at the same time. So there's that thing that you go, I completely understand why people love Ed Sheeran. I get it. Like, and he's good. Like, I'm not saying, I use that as an example because so many people love Ed Sheeran. But like, but also it's boring and formulaic and lazy. Like, in that sense of he's great, but the stuff he puts out is clearly for an audience, right? And you kind of go, that means you're at odds because you go, well, I know what he's capable of because he's great, but he's making choices which limit, I guess, is what the idea of what this is about that limit his creativity because it's like, well, I've got an audience to cater for. So it's catering for the audience versus catering for your own creativity. But I imagine that certainly there are, when you really listen to his stuff, there are production aspects and things about it which make it interesting to him as well. Like, well, I'm catering for the audience, but I'm also kind of doing these little things for myself. I do understand that that's what's happening with him. And certainly the idea of him playing live by himself in stadiums with foot pedals and things like that, there's something about it that where you go, yeah, I get how he's connected to the music in that way. But like I said, I get it, but I can't get both at the same time. And my appreciation for it. Can I ask you, there's something that I feel I know a little bit about it, but I very much feel about has an impact on me. Can you talk a little bit about the fluid body?
Oh God!
So just, you know, because it's one of those things where when you speak to anyone about it, they go, oh God, because it's hard to talk about.
It's hard to talk about, and it sounds a little bit wacky. So when Dom says the fluid body, and not even all osteopaths talk in terms of this, like it's a stream of osteopathy, biodynamic or cranial osteopathy. But the fluid body is the space and interface, I guess, where we're really connected to our innermost therapeutic process and ability to regulate and heal. And it's quite an expansive space. So I guess that's where it sounds wacky, is when I talk about it as the body, it's not necessarily the physical form that we present with to those that can see us, but it's the way that we're functioning within the body and relative to our most an alignment with our essence.
This is where it starts losing people.
It is. And this is where often when I'm working with it, there's a real beauty in not having to describe it into detail, because once you've felt and experienced it, people have a reference point for, that's what it feels like.
And then you try and get it with other people, but it's different. Well,
I think when you felt it, there's a part of you that goes, I I don't care what the words are.
I don't have to know it.
Because I feel aligned with myself. Like I feel like I'm really, truly in my own skin and I feel like I'm supported in my own skin. And I think that alignment is a word that for lots of people, alignment kind of means
structural,
vertical, symmetrical. And while the body, by and large, if there's something on the left, there's something else on the right. There's a few things like stomach, liver, pancreas where we don't have two, but everything else where there's one, nose, mouth is midline.
Yeah.
And, 2 eyes, 2 ears.
And midline is like in conception where things come together.
Well, I'm just going to talk midline in sense of the middle road.
Oh, yeah, cool.
We're going to keep it. We're going to keep it.
Okay, that's other stuff.
Simpler.
Yeah. That's osteo talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's that midline and alignment. But the long and short of it is, in my opinion, that things happen to our body and things happen to us in life that we sometimes have to adapt and compensate for. Yeah. And so it's not always about having symmetry. It's about having really functional. It's about having a functional symmetry.
So can I ask a question? So do you think that, or in your experience, do you think that the body will hold memories?
Yes.
Like
absolutely
in spots about like particularly like emotionally traumatic things. Yeah, right.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that.
The longer I go on doing what I do, the more insight I get to what those traumas may have been.
Yeah.
So, and there's key areas where people can hold emotions really commonly. So we see lots of that shoulder position, which looks like computer posture. And it can be, absolutely.
Or guitar posture.
Guitar posture if it's one-sided. So there's the obvious ergonomic stuff, but there's also what if I just, what if I'm protecting my neck or throat? People feel stuff in their chest. That solar plexus diaphragm, major area of breathing, can become so knotted up with crying or bottling up crying.
Yeah.
And so sometimes if I put my hands through there, people will have a really kind of startle response if they haven't been talked about the fact that it can allow some space for emotional release, which it's such a humbling space to be able to support people to kind of navigate their way through, because if there's been an emotional lockdown that's holding musculoskeletal tension, it looks like musculoskeletal pain, but you can massage, stretch, mobilise, all the works, and it just keeps coming back in because there's that deeper level of hold. And then that's where, as a practitioner, you've got the science and all of the elements of being able to assess, diagnose and treat. But then there's the intuitive aspect of what else is happening behind the scenes that we need to consider.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really individual space that certain practitioners step into with enthusiasm and that others not necessarily so involved with. And so when people say to me, what's an osteopath do, or should I see an osteophysio or a chiro, I'm less concerned with title and much more concerned with the connection that they have with that practitioner and if that practitioner is supporting what they need at the time.
Yeah.
And I also think I knew I was going to be a health professional from probably the time I was 13.
Wow.
I worked in pharmacy for years and I looked at medicine and I looked at, pharmacy and nursing and all those elements that were options for me. And nothing ever quite fit. And I went and I saw an osteopath and I couldn't even say osteopathy at the time. And they did a funky manoeuvre with my ribs and I suddenly, I could immediately breathe. Yeah. And it happened to be 3 weeks before the RMIT open day.
Okay.
And I went down and I talked to the osteopaths and the students, and the enthusiasm was amazing. They really loved what they were doing. But what I recognised was
different to the accountants.
Different to the accountants. What I recognised was it's the art within the science, and that's what I fell in love with in an instant. Because
that's what most musicians will tell you about music too.
Yeah,
it's not that.
Yeah.
or whatever it is. It's like something else that happens to you which you can't really say. Yeah.
That's cool. I haven't heard musicians talk about like that, because as a not musician, as a musical appreciator, but not being trained in a lot of detail, but it's the notes, it's a formula, isn't it? So there's a science in the way that it all structures together, and then and then it really is the art on the way that you put that across.
Yeah, I look a lot of the great thing about being a musician as opposed to
a performer.
No, not so much. I think most things that people want to do for a job, there's a designated pathway.
Yep.
So you would probably understand there are plenty of great osteopaths in the world who are not osteopaths, in the sense of there are people who are connected and just being around them can have the effect that a clinician can have, right?
Yep.
Or partially.
Yep.
Just by holding your hand while you're walking down the street. This is something about connection and whatnot. But to be an osteopath, you have to follow a pathway. And because you're dealing with people's health, there's insurance and there's all kinds of things that
you need to tick the boxes along the way for 5 years to go, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, most musicians who can be professional, most musicians I know don't have an education. You know, they have a connection, like they're the other type of osteopath which you just described.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
there's very philosophical differences.
Yeah. So you can go through all the training you want to be a musician or an artist or anything like that effectively. And this is kind of what I want to have conversations about with people. You go through all of the technical tick the boxes and now you're a qualified flautist, right? Are there any jobs for you? No. You can't be a musician unless you are the best flautist in Melbourne and you can play in the orchestra or maybe another orchestra. And for the rest of you flautists, you're going to be a music teacher or do something else. You're not going to be a flute player.
Yeah.
Most of the people I know who are professional musicians, they don't have any qualification or education beyond just learning how to play and having the essence of being and the connection to the music. And that's what people go, just something about the way that guy sings. There are some of us which have both. They have an education, but I've got pieces of paper that say I'm a professional musician, but, I'm not.
And it's interesting, like, as a non-technical musical appreciator, I've seen you go through the university aspect of musicianship, but I saw you play before that.
Yeah.
And I don't see the difference before and after, because the technicality aspect, for me, it's not about that. It's about my experience of your connection with the audience. And I've said to you before, there's you and another musician that I know who you sing, and I don't care whether it's a happy song, a sad song, like, it doesn't matter. But the way that you connect, I always feel it in my heart.
Do you think that's because, I'm not sure about the other person that you're speaking about, I've not seen that person play, but do you think it's because you can see or feel or understand that music is my way of healing?
Yes. I'd never thought about it, but as soon as you said
and you
it,
go,
yes.
I can see that that's what's happening there.
I feel like it's like I can... It's like a glimpse into your soul when you sing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this other guy I saw him play in Port Fairy, like, he's Victorian.
Yeah.
And long guitar intro, blah, blah, blah. And I'd heard of him and hadn't heard him play. And he opened his mouth and I started crying.
Oh, wow.
Like, I don't even know what the song was.
Plenty of musos have that effect on people.
But it was just, it was such an honest...
Yeah,
it was so in alignment with his essence of who he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what I feel. And perhaps...
Did you know the sun just came out when you said that?
No.
That's good. Thanks, son.
Pretty cool. And I guess when you talk about the philosophy of... Because that's what you were talking about before with different types of osteopaths.
Yeah,
the ones that you can move alongside and still feel that health benefit. But it is that being in alignment with calling, I suppose. And I thought having a calling was kind of theoretical, philosophical, a bit
it's
wanky.
Bullshit until you hear a calling.
Yeah.
And then you go,
yeah.
oh,
you're like, that's not a thing until it's a thing, and you go, oh.
Yeah.
So I think that's where and maybe it's the creative pull within that, but in towards that truth.
Yeah, I like that. Pain points, memories. How do you feel? Because something often that I will have a conversation with people, particularly my musician type friends, who tend to, not all of them, of course, but tend to feel like, you know, their creativity is about an expression of something they're frustrated about, or they're angry, or whatever. Interesting for me, like, my creative thing with music is where I go to solve my problem, or just to kind of like work out how I think or feel about something. It's never an angry place, because I've never found anger served me, so I've never pursued it. I know a lot of people do, but we have this kind of real romantic, still in our culture, romantic idea you've got to suffer for your art, and it's like, or you know, life is suffering, and so your art should be, or creativity should be as well. And as I wonder, as a practitioner that sees people who come to you suffering, I wonder how much of that is this people returning to you. And you say, like, people often come back because you can treat them in the moment, but they come back like 2 weeks later, like, oh, it's my thing. This is my thing I have to deal with in my life. And it's like, okay, maybe you need to deal with the thing
behind
so
the
that,
thing.
Well, I don't need to treat you anymore. And I feel like so often with musician types, I'm getting to the question. It's actually, the whole thing's just a question.
We've had conversations before. I know how this all rolls.
But how do you feel about that idea of, you know, you have to suffer in life? I mean, like, basically all life is just solving problems that come up every day, and then you go, solving that. It doesn't mean you have to suffer through them in order to be creative, or to just have a good relationship. You don't have to suffer. So
many layers within that statement question.
Go on, do something with those layers. Make me a parfait.
I think it's really problematic that creativity and suffering for your art are seen as synonymous. Because I think that all humans are fundamentally creative, and I think we need that outlet. And I think there's probably some unhappy adults who, if they could find a way of expressing their internal creativity, would find that life was sunnier, easier. Well, those sorts of,
even on a cellular level, we are a creation, and we are always being recreated. So we are, even if we don't think we're creative, we are creative. So and I think that, like, when you kind of can embrace that, like that idea that you're always, you know, you're being reborn in every moment type idea. And I know it sounds biblical, but even if you look at the great works of art, they're all about, you know, expressing man's suffering through Jesus on the cross, or all that kind of stuff.
I love that you're talking biblical, and off screen you're actually pointing to a wave, because that's my version of a church, is like, let's get in the ocean.
But even that, I mean, like, we know that all life on earth is born from, well, all animal life on earth is born from crawling out of the sea. So, I mean, it's no accident that you can find, you think you're finding a metaphor in things, and you go, oh no, that's actually how it happened. Do you know, I find that often when I look at something and I go, oh, you know, that'd be a really good metaphoric kind of representation of something. You go, oh, that's actually a real representation.
I find the way that your brain recognises those links in life quite phenomenal. I think that's where you're quite unique, and why you're so perfectly positioned to be doing a podcast
What do you call it again? What are we going to call it?
Tangential.
That'll be the name of this episode. Tangential.
Yeah, if you could just make like a loud, rocky intro for that.
It's just going to be waves and bird calling. That's all it is.
Yeah, so I think there would be a section of our community that is put off by creativity because they don't think it's for them because they're not suffering. But I also feel like I feel like there's such a beautiful expression of creativity in however we choose to portray it and to work through any different sort of emotion. So you say it's never an angry place for you, and perhaps that's because for you there's not a lot of anger to process, but for other people it can be. Yeah. I find that for me, I hate the word, but I haven't found something that fits better. I'm busy. I have a business. My brain,
busyness.
I have a busyness. My brain moves quickly. You know, there's what needs to be done now, and there's the 10 things that I'm like, oh, that'd be fun. And then on top of that, finding space for the creativity. So I have an easel downstairs and a collection of paints that I haven't opened since November, and I'd really
it should be called a difficult tool because it's not easy. This is like the last thing.
I love all of the bits of painting until the end because I can't finish things, and this is my perfectionist thing.
I say that all the time though about whether it's writing a song or recording one. Like they're never finished. You just have to stop.
Yeah,
and that's with my last EP. The guy who I asked to record it. Like I knew that my problem was it'll never be finished.
Yeah.
If I'm in control of that. So how about hey, can I pay you to tell me when to stop?
Yeah. How about you draw the line in the sand for me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he would say, that's done. I'm like, oh, cool. And sometimes it would, that's done, and we took out half the guitar parts.
Wow.
Because we were like, oh, that's the thing with it. You can just keep going and going and going.
So how does that feel internally to have the bits of your creative aspect subtracted from the to create the whole, taking parts away to kind of leave what's there? Is it
I only write a song with a guitar and one vocal. Mm-hmm. So I don't, which unfortunately, when I started as a kid, I made music with people. So we got in a room and we made a bunch of noise and we went, that's cool, that's not cool. Why don't we put that bit after that bit? And we just made stuff together. Mm-hmm. And so that's something I really miss. I would love to recapture that in my life one day. But for the last many years where I've been the artist, I've never done what we can easily do with technology these days, which is guitar part, vocal, all the harmonies, all the other guitar parts, the bass, the drums on the computer, like all that stuff. I just go, I'm not doing anything creative with this song other than here's the chords and maybe an arrangement of it, and here is the vocal. So that at least when I go in there, anything we add to it is extra to the song.
Yeah.
So we can add stuff, but it's not my artistic statement of like, or it's not my creation. It's just, I don't know, it's kind of like going, well, I've got maybe a pencil drawing and now I'm adding some colour, and it was like, well, I can take that colour out because it's not the essential part of what the song is.
Yeah. So
to answer that, I don't go in there going, here's all of my ideas and they have to be involved. It's like, here are 2 ideas, like vocal and guitar, and anything else we do, we'll see what it is. So I'm not beholden to. I can change lyrics and lines and stuff like that. I'm happy if someone says, yeah, it's a bad word, but that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen too often. Usually the basis of it's there.
I know it's your podcast, but can I ask, do you have, what are your creative outlets away from music? Because you've got such an obvious creative outlet, but where else does creativity show up in your life?
I dance with conversation.
Yes, you do.
And so I am very committed to whoever I'm talking to in the moment of being as playful and interested in that conversation. And that I find, I'm not the kind of person, if someone says something that kind of piques.
It makes you do a head tilt?
Yeah, like, what's that? I'll say, what's that about? Let's talk about that. Like I don't do fluffy conversation.
Yeah.
And sometimes that gets me into trouble because I end up just arguing with someone, or because they, as I've said before, with even the last podcast I did with Matt, sometimes you do that with people and they go, oh, I have no reason for that opinion. I just said it. And that's great when they go, oh, and you can move on. And sometimes people, that's how they feel about it, but because they've said it, they're going to defend it to the death. And you're kind of like, well, I'm kind of like a little Jack Russell with a rabbit about stuff like that. I want to get into it. Yeah. So I find, like over the last 5 years or so, where I've tried to work out how to live a better life for me, I've made my life simple. Mm-hmm. So I've stopped trying to be busy. Like you end up being busy because there's an infinite amount of great things you can do with your time, and even more shitty things you can do with your time. If you can work out which things are good for you. So I'll have a 2-hour conversation with my dad just sitting on the couch, like on a Monday, usually Monday afternoon. I'll go pick up the dog or whatever, and we'll have a chat about something, and it'll end up being, kind of a Plato, Socrates type, opposition of like basically we're agreeing on something, but there's one word that we're jostling with. Yeah. So the apple didn't fall far from the tree. No, I wouldn't have said so. Yeah. But even that, as when my dad was younger, you would never have thought like he would turn out to be the open conversationalist that he is now. But I also think that's got a lot to do with whoever he's talking to. Whereas I would do that with anybody, and Dad would be like, a couple of people he'll indulge.
Well, I reckon that's also like it's part of the journey, and that's part of evolving. Yeah. Yeah, that's learning about yourself, knowing yourself, and having enough sense of the things that you'll, stake a flag in the ground for, because I really am passionately believe that, versus, oh, you really passionately believe that, so tell me your version so that I can... What am I missing out on there?
Yeah, I want to learn it. And that, what I've learned in that, 5 or so years of, getting simple, I've learned that I don't actually have anything that I'm immovable about. And whereas I definitely would have before. Yeah. I would have had stuff. A lot of that was like I need to hold on to something because life's busy and it's full of stuff that I don't believe in, and like I'm working for the company and stuff, and I'm flying that flag, and then I was like, wow, I'm spending all this actual physical time in my life doing stuff that doesn't matter to me when I think about it. And so I was like this, and then as I've let that stuff go, things have become a bit more simple. I realised that I'm like fluid again. I'm fluid with my ideas, and think, but give me that information. I'm interested, and maybe that will make my life better. Most of the things I find that you find out about the world, they make your life better by helping you decide not to engage with them. Like in that idea of, oh, now I have that, I'm glad I know it, and it kind of funnels me more clearly into the things that are important to me. Make sense? Yeah.
It makes me think of Netflix. Like you can just sit and scroll through Netflix and watch all manner of crap that just...
But it's great when you get to the one where Netflix recommends, because it knows what you've seen before.
Or you can kind of choose to go, I'm going to zone out, or I'm going to laugh, or I'm going to learn something. Yeah. But you have to intentionally be looking for the information that you've fed. Yeah.
Does it? And I feel like I'm less inclined these days to suffer from confirmation bias. Is like to seek out things that I already believe in, to maybe go, oh yeah, well that just proves my point. Yeah. I'm much more likely to go, what don't I already think about? What don't I already know?
Does that come from sense of self? Like just having a really deep understanding of sense of self now? Like you've got alignment with yourself, and so everything got simpler. Yeah. So you can be more flexible with how you hear things. because it's not rocking your own identity?
Yeah, well, okay, I need to probably pick apart what sense of self is, but even when you just said about in the end there, like I think I know far less what I am now than what I did before my sort of breakdown and rebuild. Mm-hmm. And that's what I mean about it, is that now that I know that I'm this kind of fluid person who welcomes change and growth and that stuff, whereas before I knew what I was, and I thought that was my sense of self. Mm-hmm. And it was like, well, it was fake, like it was contrived. And now I'm kind of like, well, like I'm a bit more like, well, just if you can keep life simple, then
more restful, more healthy.
Yeah.
Less strain, less stress.
All that stuff. Just kind of go, I'm not going to have people who are like that in my life. Great. They don't bring me any drama. Great. So I don't have that. I'm not going to eat food like that. Great. Well, I don't feel sick. Right. I'm not going to drink that. Great. Well, I don't have a hangover. And you kind of go, simple. I'm not going to watch television, as in like commercial television. Great. I'm not worried about what's happening in the world. I'm not saying that, and there's the idea of like, and then people might say like, doesn't it bother you? You don't know what's happening in the world? It's like, I don't know what's happening in the world and I'm not bothered by it. I would be more bothered. I'd be fearful, but I don't have to be. What's going to happen? Like, so I guess my sense of self is that I'm not, even though I know I just described funneling your intention into stuff that you're more interested in, but because I'm open, it's easier to pick the right. You're
not threatened by the wideness.
No,
and the possibility.
Yeah,
that's exciting.
Yeah, it's really good. But also, because I live a simple life, I don't have to worry about things like, the kids' school fees have got to get paid, and once you add stuff which makes your life more complex, I completely understand how it's easy to spiral out of control.
Yeah.
If you've got a bath full of water and you pull the plug, then everything gets dragged down the drain eventually.
You had me at bath.
I do like baths.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah. Do you know, I've lived in my house for almost 4 years. I've actually only just started having baths. I've got a bath.
Yes.
Yeah, good. Yeah. But even that, I used to say that when I would get a treatment or a massage, I used to say that I think about 80% of the benefit of it is just taking an hour out of your day once, however many times a month you do it, just to let someone care for you.
Yep.
And I don't think we do that very
No.
well.
I reckon baths are probably my highest or most regular form of self-care.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. In that I've always been a water baby. And so warm, submerged, it's a space that my brain kicks out of gear.
You don't have any choice in a bath but to be in it. Like you can't, like once you get in, you're like, I forgot to get that thing. You either have to get out and go get the thing, and that sucks. So you have to stay in the bath. So
this is where marriage is great. You need your phone in the bath because I forgot my towel, or can you bring this? Yeah.
Yeah. You just sold it to me now.
Yeah. My biggest issue with baths is like actually getting out. Like
Okay.
It's a happy place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've started saunaing. I joined a gym so I could go to a sauna. I didn't join to exercise. And I found that to go from the sauna, cold shower,
best,
into the spa.
Yeah.
I was like, I could literally do this for hours on end.
My dream home has a sauna and an icy plunge pool.
Oh yeah.
Which at this time of year in Victoria, you don't even need the ice. You just need something to submerge yourself in that's cold. But I think
you could get a spa and just not heat it.
Well, yeah.
And then just.
I think I'd actually prefer the sauna if it was a home thing, to be honest.
I just mean like it could be your plunge pool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then in summer you could heat it up party a bit.
Interesting. I think self-care is a form of creativity.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
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 And like I said, even saying before, like for me, you know, writing a song is all about like working your way through a problem, and the first port of call is to kind of go, oh, I need to take time to work through that problem. So with, you know, the idea of a bath is like, oh, I need a bath. I should do that. Yeah.
My experience of that with what you're saying is food. So when I need to take time out and recalibrate is often the time that I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered cooking. But if I've gone for a week where I haven't been in the kitchen and made something delicious and loved the process of cooking and putting together flavours, because cooking's really creative.
Super
if you
creative.
do it, you know, if you can, my spice rack is one of my favourite parts of my house. Like there's just, all the stuff. But if I've gone through a period of time where I haven't made the effort to cook and combine flavours and to make something really nutritious and wholesome, then I know that I'm out of whack.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And then eating crap and getting takeaway because you're too tired. Like the cycle either is a downward spiral in one direction or it's an upward spiral in the other.
Yeah.
So I found that it's been really important for me to intentionally choose which path that's going down.
Well, it's certainly, I can really relate to that idea of choosing your path. I love what you were saying earlier about a pre-decision. Yeah, that's really cool. Like, I think that I really believe that language is super important to how you orientate yourself in the world.
Yep.
And so even something as simple, I don't want to use that example, is like I eat healthily is better than I don't eat junk food.
Absolutely.
Because even that I don't is a negative. Like, and saying junk food means that junk food is in your brain. So if you say I eat healthily, your idea of eating is positively doing something, and what it is healthily.
I am healthy.
I am healthy is better than I've got a bad back. Like anyone I know says I've got a bad back moves around the world like you don't look like I've got a bad back, right? But I'm not suggesting they don't have a sore back, but just the way they describe themselves, like they behave like that. Like they speak to you like they're grumpy because they're sore. Like, I wonder if they really are.
It's like my statement before of I am busy.
Yeah.
It's like trying to escape that word.
Yeah.
My life is full. My life is filled.
Yes.
There's space.
It seems, and that's back, even referring, I like that often the conversations I have always end up going, like we were saying earlier. But even that incremental thing about, saying, once you get 90% aisle healthily and then everything starts to affect you differently. It's the same thing with words. It's like once you start going, oh, that's right, language is really important, really specific. Because I don't believe we think without words. Like I think conscious thought is done in language. I can't seem to understand how it's not. It's like babies, for example. Babies seem mega confused, and then once they start putting language to things, they start blossoming.
I've always looked at babies the other way around. I feel like babies are like this immense blank canvas, and but with such innate intelligence. Like I feel like they're communicating behind the scenes, going, "What is with these crazy adults who don't get it?"
But is that also because their life is super simple? Like they basically just need to eat, sleep, defecate, and be cared for, and be connected to.
Yeah.
And which is, of course, effectively what all we need as well. Like no one needs to be, doing it. Or no one needs a podcast. No one needs to drive a car anywhere. Like you think of all the stuff that makes you potentially busy, and you go, how much of it do I need? well, I only need it in order to do the thing and to do the next thing and the next thing, but I don't, it's not necessary. But I think the thing about language is like, and I love that I'm talking about language right now, and I'm struggling. But I often hear someone say something, and I go, "Oh,
you're shooting yourself in the foot."
That's where you're stuck.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, one of the first things I've got a 2-year-old, 2 years and 4 months niece, and one of the first things she would say is, "I stuck." Like, I'm stuck. Like, and she would be like in the chair, like, it's like, "I'm stuck," and then she would get out. She'd go, "I'm not stuck." It was a thing. I was like, "Oh yeah, that word is so right," and she just understood the context of it, so well. And I think we do. That's the thing. We have colloquialisms and whatnot, and just ways of saying things that are unique to wherever we're from, and we don't think specifically about what we're saying enough, which I think is really interesting, given that we're talking about creativity and health, and it's a conversation which is a creation, and that we're now come to that point where
we've solved the problems of the world without talking about politics.
Oh yeah, well, problems of the world are all about politics, really. Because if you think,
but for a lack of the other stuff.
Yeah. You think about what the world was before there was politics, it was still a world with people in it who seemed to be getting along pretty well, probably.
I reckon there's always been a form of politics.
Oh, there is. Yeah. Anyway,
I didn't mean to open up politics by saying that.
Oh, I'm not hugely political, and that's like one of the issues that I will often have with my creative friends is that they're very community minded or politically minded, and I'm quite disconnected from it because it just brings angst and anger into my life that I don't need. I've proved I don't need it by not paying attention to it and being much happier.
Yeah.
And so, I could never write a political song. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I mean, I think so many people I know write remarkable things because they are political. I'm going to have a chat with my friend Ezekiel Lux, who's massively political, and we are so close. We're such good friends, and he just occupies that space, and I'm like, well, we overlap a little bit, but you respect each other's space. Oh yeah. And I can see how that. I can see why that's an important. I know, I understand his family history as well, and I know why he feels so strongly about that, and like I said, I respect it. But that is going to be another conversation with him. Yeah. So maybe in a couple of months, I can have another chat, and I can say, "Hey, guess what I learned from that conversation about how I feel about politics and creativity." Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, and I think everyone's doing their bit. Well, everyone's
doing a bit.
Everyone's doing a bit. Everyone's doing a bit. But everyone's sort of around what their life experience have been, what their successes, what their challenges, we're all moving forwards. We're all moving forwards. And when we're moving forwards in the best way we know how and with intention and integrity, and that alignment, coming back around to that, and creating a space for creativity and joy, because there's so much joy in creativity. Yeah. Then that's where we're all making the world a better place in our own unique little bits.
And interesting that you say that. You don't actually make anything better by not making anything, not being creative. You actually have to engage in some kind of form of sustainable creativity. Look at that. Bring it back in order to
have an impact.
Whether it's I made you a birthday cake or I wrote on a postcard and sent it to you at work, kind of thing. Everything that oh, that's good.
Yeah. To have an impact, you have to be creating something.
Yeah.
And the impact creates an impact creates an impact.
Yeah. Little ripples of creativity. Can I ask you one last thing? I think you've done a lot of healing in this conversation for me, so thank you. And if, let's say someone's listening to this, right, and they have gathered their brushes and their paint and their canvas and their easel, and they're just not getting to do any painting. Let's imagine you knew someone who would occasionally have to contend with that. And they said, can you give me a tip of how I can get to putting all that stuff together and making something? What would you say to them?
Just start. Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole Yoda quote of do or do not, there is no try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just start.
Yeah.
Paint to canvas, and one of the best quotes that I've seen, because obviously it resonates with me, is perfectionism is the lowest standard that you can set for yourself. I know, and it's like the first time I heard it was I'd been stabbed. And for perfectionists, recovering perfectionists, it's like but it's actually because it's so unachievable.
Yeah.
If you're aiming for that and it's impossible, how do you take that first little step? And so sometimes good enough is good enough.
You will hear musicians, you will hear, let's say, potentially guitar players who go to a gig. Like, let's say 3 guitar players go to a gig. It's like 3 guitar players are walking to a pub. They're not walking to a pub, but they're walking into a Tommy Emmanuel concert.
Yeah.
Right. And
because they don't go to Ed Sheeran. Yeah.
No, they might go to Ed Sheeran. But 3 guitar players walking to a Tommy Emmanuel concert, and 2 of them will say, he just makes you want to quit, just makes you want to give up. But there's that other guitar player that goes, I'm going home to practice. That's so inspiring. And I've never understood, like I'm the third guy.
Yeah, totally. I'm totally the third guy. Yeah.
And I imagine that there's, basically probably once upon a time, Tom Emmanuel was one of those kids that couldn't play guitar. Because at some point he couldn't have played guitar.
Yeah.
Or whoever else you think might be good.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, Ed Sheeran had never written a song and wasn't, so I think I like the idea, just start, because once you start you go,
when you can only, we're all always improving.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of...
And it's that idea too that a lot of people would think like, if I can't do it as good as that, what's the point? And that kind of is the point. It's like you're not doing it to be as good as someone else. You're doing it to be as good as you can be. Or even not as good as you can be, but just to do it. Just to
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good lesson.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right.
You're like my favourite.
Thanks for giving me a treatment.
My pleasure.
For our conversation.
Again, nobody really gets that, but it's just being in alignment. And I think that's the real beauty that I see now with osteopathy and as an osteopath, is that there's somebody coming in the door and I put my hands on and, take a case history and fix their pain with what I'm doing with my hands. But the more I go on, there's also being that touch point and guide of moving forwards and helping people, being a witness to people growing into themselves and who they're capable of being. And I think that's what you're talking about with the treatment out of today's conversation, is that you go, that's a point in time that shifts where my next point in time comes from.
Yeah. There's so I'd
I'd
love to read a transcript of this and be able to kind of get the highlighter and go, look, we touched on that 7 times with different words, because we've done that a fair bit.
And full credit to people that are still at this end of it going, I thought I knew what an osteopath did.
Hey, I know we were wrapping up, but I have one question now that you've said that. Did you go through... I know that the potential answer is, daily. Did you go through any surreal points like over your career so far? Because you've been osteopath for what, 11, 12 years?
Nah,
10?
13.
Right.
This year, osteopathy is half my life.
Right.
5 years of uni plus time in practice. And it's a pretty intensive uni course.
Yeah.
So it literally, osteo is half my life this year, which is a cool milestone.
Do you ever have those times where you just go, oh, I can't, like, I don't know what I'm doing, or I can't do this with relation to osteo? Or do you kind of go, see, I find this is how I describe learning how to play music. You're like a snail on a staircase, right? Like this, because a lot of people think that there's this kind of like, oh, in life, you know, we're always kind of going up at a certain elevation. But I feel like for me, it's always like, oh, I'm going nowhere. It's just, oh, I'm just putting all this work and this effort and I'm going nowhere. And then you go, oh, fuck, that's good. Oh, now like all that, oh yeah, now I'm at another level. Like, oh, look at that view, that's really good, right? And then you go, oh no, I've hit, oh no, like, it's such a struggle. I'm going nowhere.
That is such a good visual. That snail on a staircase is going to stay with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, but I feel like that's how like everything just tends to come together. And whether it's like, oh, I'm writing these songs and I don't know what's going to happen, and then I've recorded them and I don't know if I'm going to release them and I feel terrible about the world and I'm just, what's the point of ever doing anything? And then they go out and you go, oh, great, I can write some more songs now. And then I wonder if people who...
I think everyone goes through that. I've never doubted my ability to be an osteopath and what I can do in the room.
Yeah.
There's probably times where I've questioned whether I could do what's in the room better. And now I rest in I'm doing the best I can on any given day, and the people who need to see me find me, and I really, having a team has really shifted that.
Cool.
Being able to trust that the team are fabulous, and it's not about me, it's creating a space where there are there's somebody in that, under that roof, that can really help and serve. And when we come together and we work as a team and there's, 2 or 3 of us serving the same client, like that's pretty amazing.
Oh yeah, great.
But, businesses are different. Like there's all the other bits that kind of layer on that create new growth opportunities, which if you've got your grumpy hat on...
See how you're using language positively?
Yeah. So if you've got your grumpy hat on, that looks like a challenge or a shitstorm.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're going, oh, well, to get better at that, or to recognise that was something I have to work on, you kind of have to be hit with the challenge along the way. So it's ever evolving, and it's evolving I know it's evolving into something else for me, because I want to have a broader reach for people aligning their health with their heart and getting out of their heads, which I'm sure I'm passionate about because it's something I've battled internally myself. And so I think there's a huge capacity for people to show up as the best version of themselves, and to have that impact on, I bought somebody flowers or whatever, but that ripple impact that goes out because they're in better alignment with themselves and their innate sense of self.
Yeah, good.
I think we've both had a treatment out of like a head shift out of this conversation.
I'll finish off and tell you, I don't know if I ever told you, but something that for a couple of years before, so after my 2011 breakdown, and I started really working on, I had some CBT therapy, or CBT, like it's not an ATM machine, and a lot of counselling and a lot of rebuilding, and what I took out of that was this idea of, getting out of the way of yourself, just kind of, and so my ex-partner's an osteopath, and obviously you know her, and we went to a biodynamic phase 3 course. Well, she went, and I accompanied her in the US. And so I sat for most of the week in the room.
Absorbing.
Yeah. And it just was so funny. And it was with Jim Jealous. It was just so funny how many times he just kept telling people to get out of the way. And like I didn't realise that was my language that I'd used for my own position, like trying to get along in the world, like just get out of the way of yourself. And then getting in here, and there was this guy but he was, he was like 30 metres away from someone, just going, Bob, get out of the way. You're in the way. Yeah. Just telling people. It was really interesting. I know that you understand that.
I do. I understand it. I understand it. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
It's that
but they're
evolving.
They're not disconnected, and that's the.
No, but it's I think those patterns in life show up. I was in my late teens and early 20s, and I'd go and see an osteopath or Chinese medicine, or if someone had an intuitive message for me in my early 20s, it was just be kind to yourself. Yeah. Just be kind to yourself. I'm like, why do people keep saying that to me? And then the last probably couple of years, people have been like, oh, you're really in your masculine energy, which I learned to realise wasn't an insult, but it's my, that's kind of get shit done mode and putting the bulldozer into low gear, and like we just got to take steps moving forward. And it's just recently shifted. Yeah, and now people are telling me to get out of my head.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I'm like, I'm aware of that, but it's, it's a practice, like meditation or painting or
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that we get to be professional at something and get paid for it, but
while we get the messages that we need.
Yeah, but all of those things have to be a practice. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for being my first conversation on the sustainable creative.
Right. The tangential sustainable creative.
Yeah. That's been great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
My absolute pleasure.
All right.
Thanks for having me. Loved it.
It was only an hour and 20 minutes.
I wonder who will watch it till the end.
I'll probably watch it twice. Yeah, I'll be like, I learnt something again. So, thanks very much.
That's
and good luck with your new puppy.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get another one. Let's have a conversation. Anyway, we'll continue. Ooh. See you, everybody.
Bye.